What if your entire life's purpose was to deliver punishment? In the Middle Ages, executioners lived in the shadows, feared by the people, yet essential to the justice of kings and lords. Their bloody work and grim reputation shaped an era of fear and power. Now let's get into it. Number 5, the role of the executioner. Imagine being responsible for carrying out the punishments decided by the rulers of your time. During the Middle Ages, when justice was often harsh and swift, these men were not judges, but they were the ones who delivered what the judges had demanded. But why did society at that time need such a designated authority? What was the role of the executioner? The role of the executioner was more than just carrying out punishments. They were a critical part of the judicial system, tasked with upholding the laws and maintaining order in society. Kings, queens, lords, and ladies, they all depended on executioners to make an example of wrongdoers, deterring others from committing similar crimes. It wasn't merely about punishing the guilty, it was about publicly displaying the consequences of one's actions. But why were these punishments so severe, and what kind of punishments did these men carry out? The punishments meted out by executioners during the Middle Ages were a stark reminder of the times. They ranged from fines to imprisonment, public humiliation, corporal punishments like flogging or branding, and in the most severe cases, the death penalty. The type of punishment depended on the crime committed, with serious offenses like murder, treason, or heresy, often carrying the ultimate penalty, death. The executioner's duty was to carry out these punishments without question, ensuring that justice, however brutal, was served. Now let's take a look at number 4, public spectacle, executions as entertainment. Picture this, it's the 18th century, and you find yourself in a town square filled with people from all walks of life. Suddenly, a hush falls over the crowd as a crier announces the arrival of the executioner and his gruesome entourage. As spectators, you're about to witness an event that will be seared into your memory, an execution. Welcome to the world of the medieval executioner, where punishment wasn't just a consequence, it was a spectacle. In the Middle Ages, executions weren't just about delivering punishment. They were a form of entertainment for the masses. The crowds that gathered to watch these grim proceedings were not merely morbidly curious, they were participants in a communal event. This wasn't a macabre form of amusement park, but it was a way to publicly reinforce the rule of law and dissuade others from criminal behavior. The very public nature of these events ensured that the message was received loud and clear. However, it's important to understand the context of this practice. The concept of public entertainment in the Middle Ages was vastly different from modern notions of leisure and amusement. For many, attending an execution was a mandatory civic duty, a necessary reminder of the dangers of transgressing societal norms. Moreover, these events were often integrated into religious festivals, blurring the line between retribution and retribution. While today we might view these practices as barbaric, they were integral to the social fabric of medieval life. But how did these executions take place? What methods were used and why were they chosen? Number 3, tools of punishment. Axes, swords, and scaffolds. Let's talk about the tools of the trade. What kind of weapons did executioners use? Was there a particular method to their madness? And why were certain tools favored over others? In the medieval period, executioners employed a variety of tools, each associated with specific punishments. The executioner's axe, a symbol of swift and decisive justice, was commonly used for capital offenses like murder or high treason. Its large, sharp blade ensured a quick execution, minimizing suffering, at least in theory. Swords, on the other hand, were used for less severe punishments, often for robbery, assault, or heresy. A sword fight could also be a form of public humiliation and deterrence. Then there were the scaffolds, elevated platforms that served as the stage for many public executions. The scaffold not only provided a raised vantage point for spectators, but also symbolized the condemned's temporary elevation before their ultimate demise. These tools weren't just instruments of punishment. They were symbols of authority, reminding all who witnessed their use of the consequences of disobedience. But what about the executioners themselves? Who were these men who wielded these instruments of death, and how did they live their lives outside of their gruesome duties? Number 2. The life and stigma of executioners. Imagine living in a small village in the Middle Ages and having the executioner as your neighbor. What would your life be like? Would you trust him? Would you fear him? And what would your life be like? The life of an executioner was often marked by isolation and stigma, even outside the shadow of the gallows. They were generally looked down upon by society, seen as agents of death and reminders of the fragility of life. This social stigma meant that executioners were often excluded from community events, and their children might face discrimination, making it a solitary profession. Executioners were often required to live in a designated area outside the town or city, creating a physical and metaphorical distance between them and the rest of the population. This separation ensured that they were always ready to carry out their duties, but it also reinforced their outsider status. Their work was dangerous and unpleasant, meaning that their services were rarely sought after. As a result, executioners were often paid in a combination of a salary and fees collected from those whose crimes necessitated their services. This financial arrangement meant that executioners had to be somewhat entrepreneurial, seeking out or at least accepting whatever work came their way. Despite the hardships of their profession, executioners played a vital role in maintaining order and justice in medieval society. Despite the risks and social stigma, some men chose to become executioners, perhaps seeing it as a necessary service to their communities, or maybe just needing a job. Whatever the reason, these men were prepared to confront the grim realities of their time, ensuring that justice, however brutal, was always served. Now let's move on to number 1, legacy of fear, how they shaped justice. Have you ever wondered how the actions of these grim figures continue to resonate in our modern world? In what ways do their methods and motivations still shape our perception of justice today? In the Middle Ages, the executioner's role was deeply entwined with the concept of justice. They were the embodiment of the legal system's arm, delivering punishments that were often swift and severe. This direct link between law and retribution had a profound impact on the societal understanding of justice during this period. The public nature of executions ensured that the concept of justice was not confined to courtrooms, but was instead displayed for all to see. Every execution was a lesson, a reminder to the community and potential wrongdoers of the consequences of transgressions against the established order. Moreover, the tools used by executioners, from the symbolic axe to the ominous scaffold, became synonymous with justice itself. These instruments of punishment were not merely objects, they were visual metaphors of the scales of justice, balance, retribution, and societal order. The legacy of the executioner is a complex one. On one hand, their methods were undeniably brutal and a product of their times. On the other, their role in shaping the public's perception of justice is undeniable. Today, while we may shudder at the thought of public executions, the influence of the executioner's legacy on our modern judicial systems is a reminder of how far we've come and how much we've retained from the past. History isn't just in the past. It's alive in the stories we choose to remember. If you enjoyed this journey through time, hit the like button. Leave a comment with the legend you'd want to see next, and subscribe so you never miss the next chapter of the past. Until then, stay curious, stay thirsty for knowledge. I'll see you next time.